What is up, guys? It is the Blue Bloods here, and we are with my guy Jordan Ighofose. And man, this guy, I've been looking forward to having him on the show for a while now. He was down there balling out the HBCU Legacy Bowl, and as a former O lineman, I love when guys just go out there and ball out, have that aggressiveness. And Jordan here only allowed one sack in 3 full seasons at Grambling, which I think is probably the most ridiculous stat we've ever had on the show, man. But Jordan, I appreciate you joining the podcast, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
For sure, man. So let's go way back. We know you took the JUCO route to Grambling, but let's go back to high school, man. What was your high school recruiting process like? Who was on you the hardest? And looking back, just what was that overall experience for you like?
So, surprising enough, nobody was really on me heavy in high school. Part of that was my fault, though. I didn't have the grades. I wasn't really mature when it came to anything other than football. I didn't play any other sports in high school because I was only ever eligible for football season. Football was all I cared about. Basketball season, I wasn't about to have a GPA to play basketball. I was just worried about football season. Oh, this is the report card for football. All right, let me get my grades up. That's all I was worried about, honestly, and it came back to bite me in the end. But I say it all the time. I met a lot of people on the route I chose, and I learned a lot of things. So I don't regret it. I just sometimes do I think, oh, if I would have did things differently, maybe I could have went to the Big Ten out of high school, played 3 years, and been in the league by now. But everything happens for a reason. But the only school that was really recruiting me. So funny story is, I feel like I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't really get good at offensive line until my junior year. And I know you meet a lot of offensive linemen that tell you, oh, yeah, I played quarterback in sixth grade, or I played running back in sixth grade. No, I played offensive lineman my entire football career. That's all I played. And I hated it at first. I wanted to play D line. I wanted to play anything, tight end, anything. I hated it. But when I finally started loving offensive line, my 10th grade year going into 11th grade, and I just really felt like, okay, I'm really good at playing offensive line, is when college coaches started coming around. And the first thing they would say when they saw me was, oh, you look like you could be a great defensive lineman for us. And I'll just be like, what? Like, no. My whole life when I was begging to play D-line, coaches were like, no, play O-line. And then when I finally love O-line, college coaches are coming in telling me, oh, you play any defense? Like, no, I don't play defense. I play offensive line. So the only school that could recruit me was Davenport University, and that was because they were NAIA at the time, because it was the first year having a football team. They were moving to Division II the next year, so the rules were different. So I was eligible to sign with an NAIA school. I wasn't eligible to sign with an NCAA school because of my grades. And my senior year of high school, my team was like top 25 in the country. It was like 3-4 NFL players on that team: Ambry Thomas, LeBert Hill. It was a lot of us. We went undefeated, won a state championship. I won offensive lineman of the year, but I had to sign NAIA because of the grades. So yeah, that was really. And the funny thing is, Davenport. One thing that I was happy about was the whole time they were recruiting me, they were like, yeah, they never brought up defense. They never brought up defense. So I love that about them. They treated me like I was coming in to play off the line. But funny enough, my first day of fall camp at Davenport, they sent me to the defensive line room, and I was so irritated. But I did well to hide it, and I just was like, all right, well, if that's what I got to do, I'll do it. But I was so miserable after like a week. I think the coaches just realized, like, yeah, he seems miserable over there. And one day the head coach just called me to his office, was like, tomorrow you can go with the O line. I was like, thank God.
That as someone who can relate to you, man, I played O line. I believe I started playing football when I was 5. I played O line all the way up until I stopped playing. I mean, that was strictly what I played, and I was the same way when I was younger. I was like defensive end. That's the position. Like, you get to sack the quarterback, you get to make tackles, you get to do the celebrations, and then I got to high school. That's really kind of when I embraced it. I was like, like I can do this, man. This is my spot. So I relate to you, and I'm so glad you said, because I don't think people who, all the athletes now, they're like, I played running back, wide receiver, quarterback. Nah, man, the real grinders are the 6, 7-year-old offensive linemen. That's who really love football. But man,
Dedicated.
I love that story. But looking at your JUCO time, or, not really JUCO time, but just your time before Grambling, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome to really kickstart your college career?
It was definitely maturity off the field, grades, and just making the right decisions. So my grades was really the big thing. I was never it was never like I didn't like I had a problem learning. It was just I didn't have I don't know, I never really had the will to all right, let me sit here and do this work. My mom was always on other things like, oh, let me go work out or let me I was always worried about the wrong things. I was worried more about football than I was school. And it was a big problem for me. Like even when I got to junior college, I think I told the story before. When I first got to junior college, my first semester, the first half at the halfway point, we had grade checks. And I had 5 classes. I had 4 D's and 1 F. And I did so many up down. I did so see we were supposed to do stadiums for every F. Like it was like 5 stadiums per F and like 10 per absence or something. And we were in a group and every like they added it all up and we're supposed to do that. But it ended up raining. So we ended up just doing gassers. So we were doing gassers, but up down at the numbers, get up down at the hash, up down at the hash. So four up downs per one gasser. Man, I think I did the math one time. I think I did like 260 up downs that day with like 40
Oh
gas.
my lord.
And that was by the end of that semester, I had all A's. I brought all the D's up to A's and I brought the F up to a C. And I got a 3.5, and that was the highest GPA I'd ever gotten in college up until that point. And I was just like, okay, so now I see I can do it. I just need to do it. Like I just need to do it, and that was really an eye opener for me. So I always thank Northeastern Oklahoma for that. They really helped me realize that I could do it academically if I put my mind to it. I just need to focus on it, and I ended up coming to Grambling, and my cumulative GPA at Grambling was like a 3.4. So I picked it up.
Man, like I just the fact that this whole story how have you gotten here from JUCO level to the grades off the field, man. I think it's an amazing story. But we got to talk about why you chose Grambling, man. You leave JUCO, and you had a bunch of different schools coming after you. What made Grambling the place to end your career?
So Grambling actually came and recruited me very late in the game because I was kind of torn when I left JUCO. I was coming off the all conference season, and I knew I didn't have another season to play junior college because I only had 2 years of eligibility left at the time. So I was torn between I was being heavily recruited by a lot of like very, very, very good Division II programs, like top Division II programs in the country, like Pittsburgh State and Fort Hays State and Midwestern. Like I was getting a lot of and they were offering me pretty like it's not like I was gonna have to pay for school. And I wasn't a guy that was like, oh, it's D1 or nothing. But I kind of was like, all right, maybe I should just play another spring in junior college and try to sign D1 in the summer because I saw some guys that were on our team when I first got there in the spring and they were just playing spring and they ended up getting pretty decent offers just from the spring. So I was gonna do that, and then Grambling came around late, and they flew me out for a visit, and just Coach Nelson, the offensive line coach at the time, just made me feel welcome, and just the whole community here and everything, just the pride and just the history. Because I knew about Grambling, but I didn't know. Like I've heard of Coach Eddie G. Robinson, but I didn't know the depths of it until I went to the museum, took the tour, listened to everyone talk, met the alumni, saw how passionate they were about Grambling, and I just fell in love with it. And it was funny because the weekend before I came to Grambling, I went to my official visit to Pittsburgh State, and I was going to commit to Pittsburgh State, but then I told them like I'm going to wait till after my Grambling visit to commit. And he was like, "Oh, you're taking a visit to Grambling?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's going to be hard for you to say no to." And I'm like, "Not necessarily," because at the time I wasn't sold. I was like, "Nah, not necessarily, coach. Like, don't worry about it. Like it's not necessarily." But after I took the visit, it was hard for me to say no to Grambling.
Man, for sure. And that's just one, Grambling's one of those brands I feel like in college football. Even if, you don't watch a lot of SWAC football or you really don't even watch a lot of FCS football, everyone knows the G and Grambling and what they're accomplishing, especially with even Kincaid just a few years back in, I believe, like 2016. But looking back at your time, I know this is going to be a tough question. What is your favorite memory from your time at Grambling State?
That's actually when it has to be this past Bayou Classic, just because of all the adversity and all the things we are going through, from not winning a game in the spring to having one of the statistically the worst offense in the SWAC the whole season, the worst run game in the SWAC the whole season. And I thought at the time, my senior year, my whole football career, I've been really, really underrated. And when you're underrated your senior year, in my mind, I'm thinking this is it. Like, I'm never going to play football again. So I just really left it all on the field. And even the day before the game, I gave a speech to all my teammates, and I told them, like, I'm leaving everything on the field. This might be the last time I ever play. I'm leaving it all out there. And I give a lot of credit to Coach Graves, who was the interim head coach at the time, because Coach Fobbs had just got let go the week before. Coach Graves had us in a great mindset that entire week. Like, he made us feel like, I know everyone was looking at us like we were the underdogs, or, oh, like, just go out there and try your best. Coach Graves had us with the confidence, like, man, we're going out here to win. And I really feel like my teammates really responded to me, and the energy that I put in the air, and the energy that I was just bringing to how important that game was to me, because throughout the season, we only averaged 90 rushing yards a game. But in that Bayou Classic, I think we rushed for 400 plus. So it was just an amazing feeling. Like, it's an interview of me. I don't like it going around. It's a video of me just bawling my eyes out after the game, talking to a camera, and it's so hard for me to watch. So I'm like, why was I crying that hard? Like, we just won a Super Bowl or something. But at the moment, it felt like I just won a world championship at that moment. So that had to be my favorite moment.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, it was the most rushing yards in the season for a SWAC team, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it was top two, had to be top two off the top of my head. But looking back, man, what is one game from your career that you wish you could play one more time?
I wish I could have played. So this year it's 1.5 games, I would say. So this year when we're playing PV at the Cotton Bowl, my time at Grambling, we've never beaten PV, and my sister graduated from PV. So that was a game I really wanted to win, and I got hurt in the second quarter. And I feel like I was having a great game up until that point. And I feel like I honestly feel if I would have, me and my right tackle, Kyrie Wade, got hurt. And I honestly feel like me and Kyrie could have played that entire game. It would have turned out a little bit differently. But when I got hurt that game, I wish I could finish that game. And then the next week we played Alabama A&M, and the coaches, I wasn't 100%. I was probably like 70%. I wanted to go. My online coach, Coach Ross, was like, "Nah, let's not risk it. Like, if we don't need to, let's see how the game goes." And we ended up having that was one of the more exciting games of the year, because I know Alabama A&M was thinking they were going to come in there and beat up on us because of how our record at the time and how our season was going. But we went out there and we really showed out. Shout out to our defense. They went crazy that game, like 5 turnovers, like 2 touchdowns from our defense. It was a great game. I wish I could have been out there on the field physically taking part in that.
Yeah, I think that was really the first, maybe Texas Southern over Southern, but you guys beating Alabama A&M was probably one of the biggest shockers. I mean, because they were cruising. Akil Glass was averaging like 400 yards a game. That Jackson State game was coming up with them, and everyone was just like, they're playing Grambling this week. It's all about next week, and you guys go out there and it just dominates. So I agree that game would have been a good one, but your pass blocking, man. Me and you have talked about this offline. That's kind of how we even started talking to get this interview set up. As I posted the top 5 SWAC pass blocking grades, you were 5th in the SWAC this year. And again, like I said earlier, only 1 sack allowed in 3 seasons at Grambling, which is I don't know how that's even possible. But for you, what are the keys to being such a successful and dominant pass blocker?
For me personally, I know that I'm very, very strong. Like, I have a strong grip. I have strong hands, strong arms, and when I grab you, it's over with. Like, I'm stopping your rush. So my thing is, all right, is to keep my feet alive and get my hands on their chest, and the rep is one. That's all I have to do is move my feet after that. But if I can get my hands on your chest, and sometimes it can even be one hand. I have a bad habit of pass blocking on one hand, but it came about because in junior college, I actually fractured my pinky on my left hand. And sometimes if I would hit my pinky the wrong way, my entire hand would go numb. So I would be in the game blocking with one arm, like pass one arm because I can't feel my other hand. So, but I got so good at doing it, sometimes I have a habit of just locking somebody out with one arm. But I try to get that other arm on there to kind of guide them. And it kind of helps me sometimes to, because defensive linemen aren't expecting me to punch one hand straight to their chest. So they try to swipe the wrong arm, and then this hand's there, and then I can kind of steer them with the offhand. So I kind of taught myself how to use it to my advantage. It's kind of strike with my good hand and steer them with the other hand. But my hand's healthy now, but it's just a habit, just the way I used to think about it back then when I was hurt. But yeah, my
Man,
blocking is something I always knew I was really good at, and I kind of just always worked on it to try to maintain it.
Man, I love that story. The fact that you were so quick to just develop that one hand punch, and I mean, we had we had other offensive linemen on here talk about if you do stuff to that defensive linemen aren't expecting, it really throws them off their game because their moves are programmed because they think they know what you're doing. So that one hand punch definitely throws some people off. But also got to see you close up, man, at the HBCU Legacy Bowl this year. For you, what did it mean to be a part of the inaugural HBCU Legacy Bowl, and what were some of your takeaways of the entire week down there in New Orleans?
Oh, that meant the world to me. I can't wait till the ring comes in the mail. We're supposed to get in the ring for that. And that's just major to me. I still have the jersey in here. I'm going to get that framed and hung up. And that meant the world to me because I feel like eventually down the road in 2030, however many years, the HBC Legacy Bowl is going to be equivalent to the Reese Senior Bowl or to the East West Shrine Bowl. And to be part of the first class to ever do that is just major. Like that's timeless, something I'll never forget. And no, it was a great weekend. It was a great week. It was a great week of events they have for us. Like every day we went on a tour of different places. Got to eat pretty good food. I left with a luggage bag full of gear. Like it was just a great experience. Got to meet all the other HBCU players and just connect. And I'm still friends with a lot of those offensive linemen to this day. We still talk, and it was just great. It was just great. Only thing that I was kind of sad about was that I was the only player from Grambling there, and I wish some of my teammates could have came. And I felt like it should have been more Grambling representation because two Grambling legends started the game. So I just feel like we could have been represented a little bit more.
I got a feeling, man, just between us, that that'll be the only year Grambling only has one person go. I can't imagine there's too many years that Grambling's not going to have a large presence. But I do agree with you. The fact that you were the only Grambling player was really shocking, especially when you look at some schools had 4, 5, 6 guys on the roster. But looking, go ahead.
Fam, you had seven, and they also had three coaches. I'm not saying that as
Yeah.
an but
That is true. That is very, very true. They did have all they had the whole offensive staff, I believe. They had 7 players. So listen, might be a little bias there. Might be a little bias there, but we'll leave that there. But man, looking at your career, looking at freshman year, Jordan, to the guy I'm talking to now, how has your game evolved from freshman year until now?
I feel now I'm definitely more confident. I'm more confident and I'm more mature on the field and off the field. Like my early days, even in junior college, I used to play. I used to get very emotional. I used to play very emotionally, but now I know how to play with kind of like a controlled rage, controlled aggression. Like I'll be out there slamming people, throwing people around, and laughing. Like there's not any ill intent behind it. That's just how I play. But early on in my career, especially, I feel like it got really bad in junior college. I'd kind of let it get to my head a little bit, playing too aggressive at times on the field, playing angry, talking maybe a little bit too much. Like a funny pass blocking story. We were playing blend in junior college, and I know my pass blocking is money, and we were actually getting blew out, and I was so mad. I was telling the D lineman, like, bro, look, we're losing. You know we're about to throw the ball. I want your best pass rush move right here. Like I was just doing like little stuff like that. Like that's extra. because at times, like, it's not good to poke a sleeping bear. I mean, at the time I handled it, but at the next level, you can't be provoking people like that, because then, Aaron Donald hits you with his best move and put your quarterback on a stretcher. Now that's your fault. So I just kind of learned to keep the talk to a minimum and just play with my pads and just focus on the game and the more mental aspect of it. So just maturity.
I love that. You were like, "Man, just throw it at me. This is my training time now. Like, give me everything." I love that story, man. But for you, the ultimate goal is the NFL, but now there's a lot of different professional leagues I know you're going to be looking to play in. But just let's keep it to the NFL. Which NFL offensive lineman do you feel like you model your game after the most?
So I feel I like Quentin Nelson a lot. I feel like I model my game after him a lot. Just his tenacity, his aggressiveness in the pass game and in the run game. Because I know pass blocking is my strong suit, but I feel like I'm a very good run blocker as well. So that's something I take pride in, is moving my opponent and throwing them around and playing with aggression. So I definitely model my game after him.
That's a good comparison. I mean, probably one of the goats in terms of offensive linemen in the NFL. And you kind of mentioned it, how you were laughing, throwing people around. But for you, we know how heated it gets in the trenches. How big of a trash talker are you during the game?
So early in my career, I would trash talk a lot, especially junior college me. I would trash talk a lot, but that was my whole team's kind of swag in junior college. We used to talk a lot at NEO that year. We were pretty good that year. But now that I'm older at Grambling, I talk a little bit, but I talk kind of in between the whistles. I'll say something quick, because now I try to like conserve my energy. I realize all that yelling and trash talking, you're wasting energy that's not needed. So sometimes the D lineman would just be yelling at the top of his lungs, and I'll just be looking at him like, now I know you're tired. Like, there's no way you just sat here and was just doing all that yelling. So now I keep it to a minimum. I'm not gonna say I'm a saint on the field, but I definitely a lot.
And on the flip side, man, who's the biggest trash talker on Grambling's team from last year?
The biggest trash talker on our offensive line, it definitely would have to be Egan Atkins. He used to talk a lot. He used to talk a lot. It definitely had to be Egan Atkins. He used to talk a lot. And on the team in general, who I think was the biggest trash talker? Our whole defense was because just our offensive philosophy was run and gun, go, hit, run, fast, hit, and our whole defense was, that whole side of the ball was crazy trash talking. Even they used to be getting on us at practice. I was like, bro, like, it's not even that serious. Like, but that's how they played.
I love it, man. And hey, I saw you. Every time you guys did one-on-ones at the Legacy Bowl, I would always try to find my way to watch you guys. And there was a lot of trash talking at that one too. The O line, D line, as close as you guys were when it came to practice time. It was ready to go, and I love to see that. But looking at your game, man, one-on-one, what's the number one mistake a defensive lineman can make against you?
Let me touch them. If you let me touch you, if you let me put my hands anywhere in here, you've lost the rep. The rep. That's the
I
big.
love it.
So if you stand straight up and then you try to do all the head fake, and I'm looking right at your chest and I'm putting my hand right on your chest, and the rep is over with from there. You might as well try again.
Man, I love that answer. And looking at the other side of the ball, let's give a little bit of credit over there. Who are some of the best defensive players you've had to face in your career that just gave you a headache all day long?
So when we played the University of Houston, I didn't get to go head up against them as much as I would like. But me and Logan Hall, he ended up getting drafted in the second round. We were going at it that game. I got him a couple times. He got me a couple times. I don't think he didn't get any stats. I don't think he didn't get a sack for sure. And but we were kind of going at it. It was a good back and forth battle where I was like, okay, yeah, I got to bring my A game. He's pretty nice. And then right there at PV, Jason Dumas is probably one of the better defensive linemen in the SWAC. I know he's in the transfer portal right now, so hopefully he
He
stays.
he committed to Southern.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. But yeah, he's definitely one of the better defensive linemen in SWAC. Me and him always go out and have a pretty good back and forth battle.
Man, if you just had one more year of eligibility, man, that Bayou Classic would have been crazy with Dumas and Jordan Lewis and your guys' offensive line. That would have been a real battle there. But last question here, man. I know you've probably been asked this at the Legacy Bowl and talking to teams right now throughout this entire NFL process, but if an NFL team asks you what they're going to get if they give you that opportunity, what do you tell them?
I think they're gonna get somebody that's mature and that's ready to take the next step and that's hungry. Because my whole life I've been the underdog. I've had to fight, scratch and claw. Like even when I was at the Legacy Bowl and I was just talking to other players that were there, it was like this kid went to Florida State first. This kid went to Louisville first. This kid went to Iowa State first. Washington. It was like I came from an NAIA, went JUCO. Grambling was my come up. It wasn't the other way around. Like Grambling didn't come up by getting me. They didn't go steal a P5 bounce back. Grambling was my come up. Like this was me finally making it in my eyes. And I've always had to scratch, claw, and fight. So if you get me, you're getting a guy that's ready to come in and work. I don't expect anything to be handed to me, and I'm mentally and physically ready. So you're getting somebody that's ready.
I man, love the answer. And I know I'm rooting for you to get that opportunity, regardless if it's the NFL, USFL, XFL, man. You deserve a spot on a roster, in my opinion. But this is all about promoting you and and any player that comes on here, man. So let people know where they can find you on social media, where people can contact you regarding any opportunities and any shout outs, messages you want to give, man. This time is yours.
Okay, so you can catch me on Twitter at ham65 underscore ham65 underscore, and on Instagram the same thing ham65 underscore. And just DM me or message me, and we could do interviews. Or if anybody has any more questions and wants to ask me anything, I'm always open to do an interview. I'm down to do an interview, and I just thank you for having me on the show and giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate the work you're doing and the exposure you're giving to these offensive linemen in the SWAC. Because if you didn't post those stats, I would have never knew that. I didn't know I was top five in pass block. I knew I was pretty damn good, but I didn't know I was top five. And so I just appreciate you for sharing all that and stuff like that.
Hey man, for sure. And listen, I appreciate you coming on the show. And listen, any NFL teams, any professional teams out there, give my guy a chance. He deserves it. Listen, your quarterback has been sacked too many times, and you can fix that by signing my guy right here. But guys, make sure to go follow Jordan on all social media, man. The bigger his brand gets, the bigger and better opportunities he gets in terms of sponsorships, etc. But guys, for Jordan, myself, and the Blue Bloods, we are out for right now.